I think if you start off from a town planning point of view, we're talking about an area from the Don on one side to Tinsley Canal and the immediate environs on both sides of those, between Attercliffe and the motorway. You know, so we have so that's a significant piece of real estate. There's a number of things that are key. The highest level would be what we would want to do. We want to focus from a town planning point of view, a place where people can live, work, and play in the one area. So this is kind of not this is to turn on post-war planning on its head to a certain extent. You know, where you have factories over there and living over there and shopping over there. We want to get rid of that. We want to have a different model. You know, there's plenty of actual traffic on the edge of that site. You know, we got the M1 on one end of it. So what we would look for is a dense urban environment on the one hand, but with certain aspects to it, like in modern parlance, is what you might call the 15-minute city. So you can walk everywhere within 15 minutes. It's a green city, so where there will be elements of wilding to a certain extent, green on either side that anybody can get easy access into. That's a kind of Dutch thing that they have developed to a significant degree, what are called green fingers. And within that, you know, to come, so we're looking at, but this is also a post-pandemic world as well. So there's an understanding that increasingly people are going to be working from home. They don't need to work from their offices. They can work from home. They might work, but a lot. They might work occasionally at offices where they get in a car or get on a train and get to an office. But they can generally work from either from home or from some home office, whether it's actually within an apartment or within a complex, WeWork or something like that. But also within this area, what we also are trying to do is to do something which has not been done anywhere before, and that is to focus on being able to create food production within that area, intensive food production, which is capable of feeding a lot of people a balanced diet, so that you get food. There's there will be some energy requirement. Yeah, so whether I mean, I noticed just I picked up this over Christmas that the atomic energy people have got a fusion reactor components project going on the Advanced Manufacturing Center. So that, you know, there's something like that is at one end. That's certainly in the future, but there's a stake there, and almost next to it on the edge of the M1, there's a big battery storage or hydrogen fuel cell storage company. You know, you've got a river and a canal. We've got a power station on the other side of the M1. So there's various energy possibilities, and there's things like, you know, wind and solar and whatever. So so that's what we're looking to there. But this is partly modeled on my interest in the establishing colonies on Mars and on the Moon. And if you're going, this is where the feed a million comes from. The feed a million is from a scientific study about what you would need to do in order to feed 1 million people on Mars, which was one of the things that we were looking at. But I realized that this would, if you try to do that, it would completely transform opportunities back on Earth if you could have a totally self-sufficient, self-contained community of around 1 million people in one location, which didn't generate out great travel problems externally to it, but actually was internally self-sufficient. So that's a really big vision.
You can crack that in 6 weeks, surely.
Yeah. So that's really where, I mean, that's where ambitions are. On the practical sense, we are well on with a local client building something in Attercliffe of around, I suppose, 10 to 20 million pounds worth of stuff, where we want to implement some of these key technologies. We have some examples of food production, some examples of home working, some examples of residential, a new kind of residential where you actually design an apartment from scratch to focus that you have a dedicated working area, and maybe you have it in one apartment, maybe you group 4 or 5 apartments together so that they can share some working area, maybe you do it in the whole building. These are things that we're working on. So, and also to try and do it where the car, the motor car, is left to the edges. So internally, I think the electric vehicle market is about to explode. So I could see it's not unreasonable to expect a time within 5 years where, you know, this area, which I've described as Tinsley to the Don to the M1, will be largely electric vehicles only, whether it's trucks, cars, you know, various forms of transport. So I think that's a big vision, and you can either grasp that big vision, or you can say, well, that's just too big, but we can look at, you know, a small neighborhood, or we could look at one aspect of this, whether it's residential or working or whatever.
I mean, my gut says the students would be capable of tackling both within the same project to some level, and that would, so what you described wouldn't be unusual in terms of the scale of ambition that clients often come to us with. And what tends to happen is then, as I was describing previously, where smaller groups within the project team might focus on different aspects of that.
Absolutely.
And so that sounds all really good stuff from my point of view. I think the students would get a lot out of that.